am a participant of. I have been an entrepreneur since I was entrepreneur, not in a for-profit side, but for me, it was not for profit. Since I was a 10th grader in high school. And from then on, I have been building organizations, trying to scale them, and seeing what sticks. Currently, I am in midst of two things. One is Young India Foundation, and that I will explain a bit more. And the other is the North American Association of Indian Students, NAAIS, and that is to appeal to young people who are studying in the United States and Canada. And we act as an umbrella organization for them. We're a 501(c)(3), and right now we are the only organization that is really trying to help out Indian students who are stranded in the United States and Canada because of COVID-19. So that being said, these two organizations are my passion projects. And, I kind of can't speak much about youth entrepreneurship more than I can talk about my experience and exposure working with both of these organizations. Um, Youth entrepreneurship sounds cool. It sounds interesting. But the thing is one, there's already a limitation. There aren't as many young entrepreneurs. There's not as many young people trying to build things, even though the government and even though society tells you that you should go ahead, there will always be barriers. Barriers that, sometimes you have to overcome and some you can't overcome. Barriers that sometimes are purposely put in front of you that are unnecessary. So I personally have had that experience and exposure. The way that I wanted to do this is basically take you and explain to you what Young India Foundation is, because it deals with not just my entrepreneurial journey, but it also kind of highlights the incredible amount of young people who themselves are in an entrepreneurial venture by trying to contest, right? It's a new scale of medium, it's a new job, it's a new kind of opportunity. You're what we call bootstrapping, right? We are bootstrapping campaigns. A lot of you, if you're interested in entrepreneurship, the concept of bootstrapping exists. You're trying to get resources that you have within yourself to ensure that the sustainability of an organization, the scaling of an organization exists. That's what we do. Hamari sari campaigns, we're trying to find resources. I mean, the opposition candidate spends 10 lakh rupees in one campaign, we spend 3,000 rupees. So I think there's a lot of parallels in this. And hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about Young India Foundation. And I want this to be primarily very short and to answer questions. Okay. So I will go very, very quickly, and we'll go from there. So I want to start off by saying that I had hinted at this is, even though it sounds cool to say that youth entrepreneurship, everyone should do, everyone should be a part of, everyone should do it, it's only for the privileged, right? It's very difficult to actually start something of your own. And, some people have overcome that, and I'm constantly amazed. But I want an environment where people can actually contribute to society by starting their own for profit or not for profit, um, without facing hurdles. Hurdles, not in a sense of business hurdles. Everything you start will have some sort of financial overburden, logistical nightmare, your own kind of capacity being tested. That is natural, right? But what is not natural is facing ageism, right? Ageism is discrimination based on age. What is not natural is being considered on the basis of your caste, class, creed, right? What is not natural is having bureaucratic hurdles of things that are supposed to be easy and straightforward. And what is not natural are your ideas being unwarranted and then you being used by other people, copied and pasted. So my thing is these hurdles we face all the time as young people. Abhi to tu bachcha hai, right? That's something that we hear all the time. And some people, dissuade you from trying to do your own thing. As a personal experience, I grew up with that, right? And I still face it today. I don't want to bore you, but right now the world is going through a humanitarian crisis. So what I do with Young India Foundation and NAAIS is basically my passion, right? I don't get paid for it. I do it as a passion, and all the money that we collect goes directly to either the candidates for Young India Foundation or our programs, and for NAAIS to the people we're helping out, right? And I have a daytime job, or used to. But as the pandemic hit, as COVID response came in, and जो हमारे young students थे United States or Canada में, they were left homeless. आपने news में पढ़ा होगा. They didn't have money to eat, almost like the migrant issue and crisis within India, obviously to another level. But we were trying to help them. And I started fundraising, and my day job was all part of a nonprofit, a very very big organization, multi-million-dollar organization. They fired me. They said there was a conflict of interest, and they fired me for helping other young Indians. And I shared this, and they asked me to choose. I could either choose NAAIS and keep working, or they said that leave that and just do your daytime job. And that is a very very hard decision to make. How do you pay rent? How do you pay for food? How do you do all these things? Yeah, do you follow your passion? And in my head I thought about kitne young log hain, young students hain jo ab फंसे हुए हैं. If I stop helping them, what happens? Right? So I made the decision that I wouldn't be quitting NAAIS. They fired me. And I share this with you all because A, it happened very recently, 4 days ago. And two, these are barriers that come in the way of your youth entrepreneurial journey. Everyone will face some sort of issue that revolves around, your career, your personal life, again, your professional life, and you have to overcome those struggles. And that's just what it's about. And it's not romantic. It's not, I'm not trying to be filmy. I'm just saying that these things will come in place, and everyone has their individual problems, and try to overcome them. I'm trying to overcome mine right now. So that being said, I want to talk about Young India Foundation, what we are, and I'll quickly go through it. So basically, the government's definition of what it means to be a youth is between the age at the United Nations, between the age of 15 to 24. Right off the bat, the India government disagrees, and it says the age of a youth is 15 to 29. So that's how we define youth, right? But what is the portion of the youth population in India? So there are, according to the Census of India, almost 1.275 billion people. Below the age of 30, you have 73%. Above the age of 30, you have 27%, meaning 73% of India's 1.275 billion people are below the age of 30. I know that's very hard to believe. So this is data copied exactly from the census, right? And this is from 2011. So yes, it's outdated, but even then you had such old people, young people, so many of them. And if you look, and these numbers are not in the hundreds, thousands, these are in the 100 millions, right? Just to clarify. And look, you have in 2011 itself, and then also 2021, people between the ages of 0 to 4, right here, right? Sorry, I don't even know what I'm doing, but you guys get it. You have 125 million people just between the ages of 0 to 4. You have 122 million people between the ages of 5 to 10. This right here, these numbers are the 10th and 11th and 9th and 8th largest countries in the world. That's how many, that's the number we're talking about right here. It's huge. So basically, if you break it down, these numbers between below the age of 29, they're almost as big as so many different countries. And total, when you look it up, there are about 600 million people below the age of 25. 600 million. That's almost the size of the entire population of the United States, which is the third largest populated country in the world. Now, According to the Commonwealth Youth Program, which is this international youth development index, India's YDI ranks 0.58, which is 133 out of 180 countries. So we are behind countries, most of South Asia, we are doing behind when it comes to young people. We are doing behind countries in the Middle East, in some African countries. So we are doing terrible when it comes to our youth development index. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, says 30% of India's youth are neither in education nor in unemployment. And the WHO says India has the highest rates of suicide in the world between the ages of 15 to 24 demographic. So this is a really good chart to understand that Hamaijo, does anyone here understand what the gross national income is, GNI? That is basically one of the several factors that goes into the GDP. But the gross national income for those that are in economics is a huge deal. Youth contribution and the people between the ages of 15 to 29, we give 34% of the contribution. And this is in 2014, right? We had only 2% of youth representation. In 2019, that dropped to 1%. So it's a huge, huge issue. Now, the median age of population, if you look at India, it's 27, median, okay? In Russia, it's 39. In UK, it's 40. In Australia, it's 38. In Germany, it's 46. In Brazil, it's 31. But the age of candidacy at which you can contest for a member of parliamentarian, member of legislative assembly, is 25, the highest in India. Whereas in countries that have such a high median age of population, for example, Germany 46, it is 18 there. So I talk a lot about how the Indian government is not doing its job, but it's important that you hear from the Indian government what they're saying. In the National Youth Policy of 2014, the ministry admits youth organizations in India are fragmented. There's little coordination between various stakeholders working on youth. There are no systematic channels for engagement between the government and young citizens. There's no concentrated effort to identify the range of stakeholders working on youth development. Basically, the government is admitting its job, admitting that it's not doing its job. Now, you also need to know that India's youth department has one of the lowest budgets of the year. This was in 2017, but sadly, this trend has continued on. And it was allocated 500 crore rupees, right? Just as a comparison, here are other people who were allocated different amounts. The Ministry of Tribal Affairs, 5,300. Ministry of Youth, the Yoga Ministry, 1,326. Ministry of Water Resources, 6,000. So these things are issues that we talk about, that we face, and we believe that the youth ministry is not properly protected, funded, and developed. Now, I'm going to switch tracks a little bit. This is basically from our constitutional structure and what is the third tier of governance. As you guys know, first is the union government, then the state government. And within the state government, there is the Panchayati Raj for villages, Jila Panchayat, block, village Panchayat, Gram Sabha. And then there's the municipality, the municipal corporation, the municipal council, the Nagar Panchayat, and then wards, right? So these are the differences. Now, people always focus on the union, they focus on the CM, but what we believe is that the third tier, right, is the most important local governance, right? Because according to the 11th Charter of the Constitution, here are some of the functions under the local level governance. You have things like, agriculture. You have things like small scale industry, right? You have things like roads, bridges, ferries. You have electrification, rural housing, social forestry. But then you also have non-conventional and energy resources. You also have poverty alleviation programs. You also have health and sanitation, public distribution system, maintenance of libraries, maintenance of community assets. Basically, what it is that your daily life, anyone in rural or urban India, is under the responsibility or has the most interaction with the local level governance. So your panchayat, your sarpanch, your ward member, your MC, your mayor. and yet it's the least basically focused area. This is where we're trying to come in as well. What we believe is that India's driving social economic force is its youth, and yet India's greatest resource is politically underrepresented. So this is where basically we come about what Young India Foundation is, and what we do. What we basically do is help young people contest elections, and efficiently. We try to handle their campaigns, recruit candidates, and make sure no one is breaking the law. We have gotten people elected. What we believe in is local level leadership and young people, right? And we don't want an abstract idea of governance. We want a local context to leadership, and we want to make political leadership accessible to the youth. I'm not going to get into the details of what we're doing, and I can ask that. So basically, what we're doing is we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan, and that basically means that ना तो हम पैसे लेते और ना नहीं हम कोई party को support करते. We support independent candidates that we recruit and stand for elections, starting with the panchayat and municipality level. And our idea is that we empower young people, we raise awareness on youth rights, and we solve India's gerontocracy. Gerontocracy is a very complicated word for saying that India is governed by old people, right? That are much older than the average demographic. This is something that is a term that is very complicated, but actually very easy. And it explicitly describes what India is. Also, we're always thinking about gerontocracy is a complicated uh, word. Though Hindi mein, it's not a direct translation, but Vrid Sashan, right? Vrid means old, governed by old aged men, and Sashan obviously is government bureaucracy, etc. So just so you know, gerontocracy is a Vrid Sashan. So again, that's our vision and mission. We want to make politics in India accessible and inclusive, and to solve India's gerontocracy. And these are, very specific details about what we're trying to do. We do it through electoral support and campaigns, outreach and advocacy. We have a research center. We have a Y25 campaign that we want to run to decrease the age of candidacy from which you can contest. And, getting involved. There are a variety of ways you can get involved as a volunteer, standing for elections, joining the core team. There are research opportunities, electoral campaign opportunities, advocacy and outreach. You can be a representative ambassador. And so I want to end here, and quickly, focus more on questions rather than talking. Is that okay? Rohit, if that's fine, can we take questions? So should I take them from the group chat? How do you want me to do this?
You can take that from group chat. Actually, there are a lot noise come. So we muted everyone. So we start taking question from our group chat, and you will answer that. Okay, that will
Okay,
be fine.
perfect. So
Yeah.
if anyone can post on the group chat, I'll be more than happy to focus on the questions, because I think the questions are better. It's more engaging rather than me talking.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to ask anything, they can start asking. Okay. So there is one person, Nikhil Pawar, our student. So Nikhil Pawar had asked Sudhanshu sir, in India, no one trusts young people for politics. How you tackle that? Yeah, hello, Sudhanshu sir.
Yeah, sorry, I got unmuted, and I don't know why I sent a message to Manish directly. I'm sorry. Um, so Nikhil, um, this is what we call ageism. right? Discrimination based on age. Every young person goes through it. Abhi to tu bachcha hai. Abhi kya karega? Abhi to tu immature hai, right? And in some cases it's true, and some cases it's very far from the truth, right? And it's not that young people are not trusted. See, what we believe, what we've seen is, agar aap local level pe jaoge, agar aap sarpanch, punch, MC, mayor dekhoge, so a lot of these people are actually young comparatively, right? Um, that being said, when you go to the central level, or when you go to a state level, larger level, you see that the age demographics shift. Older ho jate hain. And that is a manipulation of people that are in power, right? Because what we believe, हमने जो campaigns contest करी हैं, age has never been an issue, right? It's been more of what, sadly, of a manipulation of media, but also the people in power saying that, young people are too immature to handle this. But what I don't understand is, young people now are representatives of the demographic. क्योंकि ज़्यादातर young people, as we had stated before, if 70% of the country, 73% of the country is below the age of 30, that means that most of the people living there are also young. We need a younger person to reflect the ideas, the concerns of the younger constituents, which are the majority constituents, right? So, but yet we don't have that. So that is one issue that we face, and people do want that. So it's an issue that's ongoing. It's now become a systemic issue rather than just the system is against you. So we have to overcome that by organizations like the Foundation, who are constantly advancing this idea. So Vicky Kumar asked if we have an idea how we execute successfully. Vicky, that's a very, very broad question. I think that at the end of the day, you have to understand what your resources allow you to do so, and also how much you want to devote your time. Are you willing to, for example, if you're really passionate about it, to quit your job, get fired, and start from there? If you can afford to do that, not everyone can. So I would just say that it requires a lot of privilege, first off, and then post privilege, it requires a lot of passion. Um, Irfan, is there any criteria or conditions to join Young India Foundation? No, there's no criteria or conditions. Whatever your passion is and interest is, let us know. We'd love for you to join. If you want to contest, then we have basically a process of who you are, how we can help, and go by that. And we'll see that. Shivani Kupal, does YF focus only on politics and governance? Indirectly, yes. In a way, we are trying to get more young people into politics and governance, but I think the effects that we're bringing out are more systemic. Young people face ageism issues and discrimination in every career, whether it's business, whether it's academia, whether it's sporting, whether it's acting, and especially they focus have discrimination issues in politics and governance. So our thing is that's where the biggest discrimination exists, and we focus on that. But the parallel effect, right? For example, if you have young people getting elected to politics and representatives, the policies they make, jo kaam wo karenge, it affects young people in different areas, right? Issues that are coming up right now that we cover, they're impacted by so many different areas. So indirectly, hum focus politics and governance mein karte hain, but that has such a huge resounding effect because what we believe is politics and governance is all around us. What is the main motto of YF? It's to get young people, empower them from the panchayat to parliament. How to rich by young? I don't understand that. Diksha Pariyar, what a person is going to learn if she joins YF. I think it's not about more of the learning, but more of the molding. If you contest with YF, you obviously get to become a candidate and thus a representative of young people and the ability to bring about change. If you join YF as a volunteer and want to help out, it's to understand the youth rights movement. You will learn about how to actually empower young people with your skill sets, and things of that nature. Irfan Ahmed, how will youth make money for elections and campaigning against old and corrupted politicians? Very true. So here's the thing, Irfan. This is a really good question. जो हमारे candidates हैं, हमने almost 20 candidates खड़े करे हैं, out of which 6 जीते हैं, तीनों के election अभी रह रहे हैं, and the rest lost by very small margins. And going against very, very, very successful old and what you say corrupted politicians. There was a woman 18 साल की पंजाब में एक छोटे से गांव सत्तवली में she went against a 60-year-old political patriarch, right? Meaning a very, very, established politician. और उन्होंने 6 महीने पहले शराब बांटने लगे थे, right? And they spent almost, I mean, the villagers said that they spent almost 40-50 lakh rupees on the election. हमने हमारी कैंपेन 2 हफ्ते पहले शुरू करी इंद्रप्रीत के साथ, और हमने सिर्फ 3,000 या 4,000 rupees lagaye, much below the limit, right? And we were able to garner, we only lost by 13 votes. 13. So what I want to kind of convey is that, and this happens all the time, right? We've done it in so many variety of areas, that yes, it is very difficult at first, but if you run a very cheap campaign, right? If you're able to outsource all your costs, and it doesn't work all the time, but we are trying to perfect our idea, then you don't need to make money to pay off for your campaigns, right? During the thing. That means that you will be less corrupt. That means that you will actually focus on implementation, and implication of those, right? So I just want to say that, elections are expensive because we make them expensive, right? And I'm not saying, 4,000 rupees mein aap pradhan mantri ban jaoge. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is you have to basically compartmentalize. हम सिर्फ local level की बात कर रहे हैं. Yes, eventually we want to go on top level as well, but local level pe, if you can do this as many times, that's still an implication. And we believe local level is very important. Manish, how to contest in YIF? Well, you reach out to us through our website, through our social media. Let us know where you want to contest from, your age, your background, and we will start doing research on you. We will understand when elections are, how we can help, and we start the process. Every candidate is different. How exactly can an average Indian go to US, settle there, and do a startup? Look, to be quite honest, if you want to do a startup, then the US is not for you. Not right now. If you want to do a startup, then you need to focus on India. There is enough literally enough cheap labor. There are enough resources. I mean, even though there are so many different hurdles that get in the way, but it is very, very possible that you can be successful doing your startup in India rather than going to the US. The visa system doesn't allow it here. The expense system doesn't allow it here. And I genuinely think that isn't too possible. Nikhil, any to make any young person get elected at tier 3? Yes. So we've had 6 different successful cases. We are waiting for 3 because of COVID-19. The elections were halted. But we've done it before many times, and we've had great successes, and we've come so close in many different ones, right? So I would say that that's not a big deal, and completely possible. People never trust young people, and we all face them. So then a high chance of getting their self-confidence down. So what should we do at a time to maintain our self-confidence and face all the obstacles? I don't have an answer to that. And the reason why is because I think self-esteem, self-confidence is very, very personal, right? What I do when I face discrimination, when I am told that I can't do something, I like to think about, the impact that I'm having. I like to close my eyes, and I like to think about the work that I'm doing and the impact it potentially will have people. What is the future? What can be done, right? And then I try to find any way I can to get around that obstacle in my head. And if I can find a way in my head to get around that obstacle, then I have enough confidence to actually try to get ahead of that obstacle, if that makes sense. I think for me, and this is just my personal way of dealing with situations, is that I like to sit down, close my eyes, forget everything else, and just think and breathe. And if I can do that, if in my head I can get around an obstacle, I have the enough willpower and self confidence to do it in real life. So that helps me. I hope that it can help you. In terms of joining YF as a volunteer, you can reach out to us on our social media, linked below on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or you can mail us at contact@youngindiafoundation.org and give us your resume, and we can see what works for you. हमें अभी we're doing something. I don't know where all you're from, but we are doing a new initiative where we are trying to create YF focal points and representatives to empower young people in all 1,000 plus districts of India, and for them to be our eyes and ears on the ground. So they will be coordinating events for us. They will be talking to DCs. They will be talking to the local bureaucracy and political offices. They will be telling us and updating us on elections. So it's a very high intensive role with a lot of responses, and we're focusing on areas outside of the 5-10 metropolitan cities. So maybe you should look into that, and I think it would be something that you all, as entrepreneurs, as budding entrepreneurs, would be interested in, because it gives a sense of responsibility, ownership, and responsibility. How to get into the automotive industry in US, given that I have a prototype ready? I think I'm the wrong person to ask because I know nothing about the automotive industry. But let me see if I can search that up to you. If you email me or something, I can try to do basic Google research that you can do and I can do. But that's about it. Vicky, any opportunity those youngsters who want to build our leadership around corporate or entrepreneurship, not in political? Again, I think that, to me, I've always done no. We don't do business ads and campaigns. We only do politicians and representatives. For us, we've only done and focused on building young people around movements, because that's what I'm interested in. They don't have to be just political, anything. And my venue and medium is Young India Foundation. Okay, I think there aren't any more questions. Rohit, that being said, yes, my email ID.
Yeah, sure. Can I ask you some question that can be useful for all our audience?
Sure, of course.
Okay, so my first question is, what do you think? How much social entrepreneurship can help you can say the future of India, or the vision of our Prime Minister for a developed economy? And you can say our Prime Minister had said that we have to reach 5 trillion economy. Okay, so how much do you think that social and entrepreneurship young entrepreneurs can help?
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely believe that medium and small scale enterprise are the future, right? We can't keep consolidating. We can't keep thinking big, large industries. We can't just be Ambani, Adani, and Tata, etc. Right? So it is people sitting in their homes creating income for not only themselves but the people around them, right? So this concept of local level entrepreneurship is incredibly important in my perspective. And I'm not an economist, so I don't know how viable that is to reach the 5 trillion. But what I do understand is that young people in India and their mentality is that they're already self-starters and entrepreneurs, right? Incredibly passionate, incredibly resourceful. I don't know how successful. I mean, if you people have had success with the Startup India, that's amazing. I don't know many people who've had success with the bureaucracy and trying to get Startup India working. But I do think that at this time, in the India that we live in, it is easier to start up if you have the resources and people and obviously intellect, to have a small scale startup than anything else right now. If there's an idea, if there's a demand, and pushing that in there. Scalability, I can't speak of because I'm not an expert on this topic.
Yeah.
But in the ability to start things up, I think is easier, more, and I also think that there's so many resources available for you. I have a friend who actually just right now graduated from NYU in 2017, and as soon as he went back, Ludhiana se or Ludhiana mein, there is a market, and this is probably boring. It's not something that's sexy. It's not something that's, oh my god, technology oriented. But he's basically meeting the gap of rice vendors. He saw a gap in Ludhiana where rice was not properly. For example, Ludhiana is a big mandi city where a lot of grain comes from all over Punjab. But within Ludhiana and surrounding areas, the rice then goes outside, but not within Punjab. So what he's done, and he's built a successful startup that's now a full-fledged business organization, is meeting the demands of quality and cheap rice being produced and given within the Punjab region itself, right? And he was able to do that as a startup with limited resources. And now his father, because he saw so much success, has stopped his own business and is now working for him for in the rice industry, right? And this is literally only a year and a half old, and it's a new model that he's applying. Now, rice is something that people don't think of, bhi kya hai, kya nahi hai, but he was able to find a need, right? So no, he's not using the biggest tech and doing this. He's using his data. He was a computer scientist at NYU major, so he's using data that he found and using coding to help simplify what is the best way to process, intake, and output rice in within the Ludhiana region. And I think, actually, I would recommend that you talk to him and he be a speaker here, and I'll ask him if he can, and talk about his Foods One business. And I think he would be a great example of something that's not sexy. It's not something that we all just imagine everything to be, and yet there's such a huge demand. I mean, think about it. It's so successful in the past 1 year and a half to 2 years that his established businessman father ended his business and joined the Foods One rice company, right? And this, there's that demand and scale, and you still have to work with the resources. You still have to work with migrant laborers. You still have to work with the mandis. You still have to work with all these factors, right? So again, it's a startup, but it's using all the old traditionals that we think. He's not working from a co-working space. He's not talking to, market leadership, etc. These are still using the same resources, but in a startup model. So I would, kind of suggest that when we think about startups, we don't need to think about all these modernities that have come. Problems still persist in our traditional methods that will always go on, that we fail to look at, but we can revolutionize it by the way, the skills and assets that we have.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for answering this question. My next and last question is, see, there are a lot of startups, like you can say a young entrepreneur of India, what he thinks that he will make an app or website and he will become an entrepreneur. But there are a lot of problems at a local level. Like there are a lot loopholes at a local level that we can fix through rural entrepreneurship. So what do you think? How young people can take an initiative in rural entrepreneurship, or the problems that are that local peoples are dealing with.
Yeah, I don't know about how. I think it's the intent. And most of people from rural India potentially do want to focus on rural India because that's their daily, life. Um, the thing is, a lot of people are fascinated by urban India, the tech, the modernity, the co-working spaces, doing this, doing that. But there's there's an oversaturation of that, technology companies and more building. But rural India needs the same thing. And there are so many gaps in our traditional mediums, right? In the way we distribute food, in the way we outreach people, etc., that it's quite hard to actually bring about that. So I do think that um, there is a huge scope that people can. I'm not the best person to answer how, um, but I generally do agree with that there is much more capability now in rural India and our traditional methods than there is in urban India.
Thank you, sir. The last suggestion you will give all of us who are aspiring entrepreneurs, means we are all just started with entrepreneurship. Some of them are just started and some of them are just yet to start. But all of us thinking about entrepreneurship and wants to become an entrepreneur. So what is your personal suggestions to all of us?
Look, I'm not someone to give personal suggestions and tell you about your path. All I do want to tell you is have enough faith in yourself, in the
Yeah.
good days and in the bad days, right? And my mentality on things is that think about being at the biggest slump of your life where everything is going wrong. I had that at one point. Everything was going wrong. And then I decided that nothing else can go wrong than it already has. And anything from that, can only go above and beyond, right? So think about the lowest time of your life and think about where you are right now and keep on going because you've already overcome it, right? And that's what I do in my personal life. And I just think that you need to have faith. And that's the biggest thing. And it's really hard to have faith in slums. But that's the only advice I can give. I'm not going to tell you that this is the best way because everyone has their own journey, right? Everyone has their own specific way they're going to reach. They have their own resources, skill sets, their abilities. I think you just need to have confidence in yourself. And if not confidence, you need to have the ability to overcome that hurdle one day at a time. Don't think don't don't think in the future. Don't think it 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 2 years from now. Think about surviving the day. And once you survive the first day, then it's to tomorrow. You'll survive tomorrow. And then day after. And then a week. Just focus on that.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for joining all of us today. And the answers you have given had truly helped us and is truly going to help all of us. And I hope that we will connect for further session in future, upcoming future. And thank you once again for joining all of us. And I just want to thanks once again from all Maitri School community. And thank you.
All right. Take care, guys. Have fun.